And another level of development for me is committing to an intentional or a conscious relationship, where of course we have all our humanness, and she's a woman and I am a man, and all of the practical aspects, but we also commit to allowing every moment, including every shadow, every argument, to be an invitation for us individually to let go of our past so that we can come into one. And that's both a fierce journey because there's nothing left on the table. Like there's no hiding anymore. Like all the shadowy parts, here you are, you know. But it's also, yeah, something I start to feel right away that she loves the parts of me that I couldn't love myself.
Welcome to The Deep Coach, the podcast where we explore the transformational journeys that shape us and that propel us to change the world. I'm your host, Jonathan Enmida, and in each episode, we sit down with those who have journeyed into the depths of spiritual transformation and who are now reshaping the world through their presence and their work. In listening to these incredible human beings, you'll find insight, inspiration, and practical tools to support your journey as a coach and as a human being. Today's guest is Hampus Blomberg. Hampus is one of our incredible learning leaders at the center and a true light in this world. He really does brighten every room he goes into, and I think you'll get a sense of some of that light in our conversation today. So in today's episode, we talk about a few key moments of awakening that changed his relationship to work and to life, a moment where he hit rock bottom that really changed the trajectory of his life, and then we talk about spiritual partnerships, shadow work, and the power of breath, and so much more. This is a really beautiful conversation around life, healing, and spirituality. I hope you enjoy. You are such a bright light. You have a radiance to you in interactions and how you show up. And I imagine you were talking about your daughter. We can talk a little more about your daughter later on. She just came into this world not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about you coming into this world, and I imagine you coming into this world like this bright light, but that's not always the case, you know? And so where I want us to start is, how would you describe who Hampus Blomberg was prior to any inklings of awakening or transformation?
Well, maybe part of that has always been there, the kind of joyful openness. Like our daughter Stella came out like this, you know. Um, so that kind of spark of creativity and wanting to connect, I think has always been there. More than anything, I think more achievement based and more busy, and maybe feeling good enough and proving something, which also has led to a path of seeking many different things and learning a lot on the way. I think that's why maybe I learned to play the guitar in the beginning. Just this is something that it both feels fantastic to play, but it's also a way of kind of gaining recognition to some degree. Uh, yeah, yeah, but the call for creating, just making art, whatever that means, and then bringing people together, I think would be the core factors that has always been there, and gradually maybe less and less shadows and less weights of my own shoulders in a sense, and allowing those kind of core traits to be free and natural, freer and more natural gradually.
So you've always been this creative spirit in a sense. I guess we all are. We're hard when we're little, but
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not. We don't have that self-consciousness attached to it. What would you say were the shadows, or what was sort of the nature of the heaviness that you experienced as a young person?
Well, I can recall from even younger years seeing and experiencing this kind of dissonance in the world. On one level, seeing what myself included, where we all are kind of showing off on the surface, and then this underlying aspect that we're just expressing something else, but that was usually pushed away, right? So we walk around and live with our roles or our masks. Um, So I remember feeling from a young age both a desire, but also kind of a guilt about not being able to meet people heart to heart, and also having this weight of the world on my shoulders, expressing itself in always wanting to be good, do good, which ironically often leads to the opposite, right? Uh, so I think that living with that, what I now know is what we can embrace as a paradox and experience it and hold it. That was more experienced as a dilemma when I was younger. Like either I'm doing good, whatever that means, depending on how old I was, or I am not good. And with that comes a judgment towards everyone else as well. Um, yeah, and at times that was probably more noticeable. Like really, when I've been chasing something, may that be achievement or spirituality, same underlying kind of driver. Uh, yeah, I think that, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but that was probably the key moment in my journey of letting go at a meditation retreat of coming into the felt experience or the emotion of that, the imprint, the stuckness, and actually connecting with that for the first time, recognizing, oh, this has been with me for as long as I can remember. No wonder why I'm either chasing things or feeling heavy or, anxiety, depression, either way. But also having a passion and inspiration to want to evolve and want to connect. Uh, yeah, maybe we'll come back to that later. But it's beautiful how, I mean, we see that now in coaching and deep coaching, how we have these limiting beliefs that are with us since, just since early childhood, or maybe before that too, that more or less shape our whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, and these limiting beliefs, it's really survival for that little being that's learning, what gets us love, what gets us attention, what gets us validation, and learning from our environment the things that do, the things that don't. So I can see how sort of being the good boy, being, the best boy, being, that being a driver, because those were the things that your little you associated with receiving the things that are vital for a young person to receive as they're growing, as they're developing.
Yeah.
And I can see how that then becomes a weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, both. It's simultaneously. I mean, it's easy to say afterwards, right? Once we have kind of reconciled or digested that part of us, and we can see that it was both a gift all the way through. It drove us to explore things or maybe rebel against things, but learn and venture through life. There's always this element of ease afterwards and being able to let that, may that be creativity or whatever we kind of choose to use to express that, but to allow it to unfold by its own volition without needing a destination. It's more something we can live moment by moment. So in a sense, living as purpose, on purpose, instead of for an external purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you stumbled into that realization early on. You mentioned and you shared with me about this moment when you were playing guitar where can you describe that moment when you were playing guitar and what happened and how that became sort of the first awakening or seed for awakening?
Yeah. So that was a little later. I think I was probably 17 or 18. Um, and yeah, I'd played guitar for maybe a year or two, and I was completely fascinated and played for hours and hours. And as I began playing scales, these kind of patterns, repetitive patterns, and again for hours, I for the first time began to reflect not about the kind of my fingers or the sound that was coming out, but more about how I was relating to it. So moment by moment, kind of moving in between either projecting a reality when I was a cool player on stage, receiving recognition and kind of feeling juiced up in a sense. I'm getting something from this. And then next moment coming back to maybe noticing just the fingers, but then gradually beginning to notice more of space and the space in which the sound comes into, right? But not only sound, also the emotions that relate to the music that is moving. and the thoughts about the sound. So kind of just gradually opening wider and wider and allowing everything that is in experience, everything that is moving to be witnessed. So I had no idea what that meant then, but that kind of led me into meditation later on, just that fascination of there seems to be this, not this just horizontal or kind of directional experience of life, but an inner vertical experience that just shifts everything. Like how am I relating, and who am I relating from and as? All of those questions. So I think that was the first, yeah, kind of the spark of a new dimension opening up, and then adding to that just the experience of being with tension and release, which is so clear in any song or in any movie or play. We all know that intuitively, that without any tension there is no release. So there's no emotion and there's no interest, right? There's no life.
Yeah.
But with being with music, it's such or it could be any art form or anything for that matter. But from my point of view, music just allowed a sense of experiencing tension and release, or letting go and letting come, in a sense, as we talk about in deep coaching. And then seeing how, well, this is how life moves. It's not just music, it's everything. So rather than relating to me and others as personalities or titles or relationships or whatever kind of labels we put onto each other, we can begin to experience life as moment by moment. Is there tension or release? What is life asking for to let go or let come? And there's such simplicity in that, because you can just ask any moment. It's like, is this a letting go or letting come moment? Is life asking me to go in and kind of more passion right now, or maybe even push against something with loving resistance, if you will? Or is it just time to witness, listen, relax, don't take no effort at all? And the latter is we don't do that too often, maybe, in our modern society.
We really don't. We really don't. So these insights eventually came to you as a result of going in and following the thread of that insight that you first had from playing the guitar in that way. What do you remember your relationship to that moment being shortly after? So in because it sounds like you picked up meditation a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And so were you seeking that moment through music after that?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was most just pure fascination, and also a recognition that it was hard to talk about it, and and especially allowing that the kind of concept of tension and release, for example, to be applied to relationships. And uh, I think I was in school back then, but also working, like, applying it to day-to-day life. That felt important. That felt important, but also very challenging. So that became almost like I started to close up a bit, and in a way, maybe making I didn't call it spiritual then, but that aspect of this, here, here is magic and mystery, but out there it seems to be more rational and logical, and if we can prove it scientifically, then it's real, kind of. So I think it took a few years to reconcile, instead of making that a kind of again a dilemma. So really a sheltering almost, and I think it took maybe 4 years until I began meditating, and then that became more of a, yeah, like a daily practice, and I started to open more into that deeper aspect of reality to me, because being in, as soon as we experience presence, it's like everything within presence is also included, right? So we open wider and wider, include more into experience. So from that position, we also see, um, it's like it's more wisdom without excluding anything, because it just allows more perspective to be. It's
Yeah,
always a yes and, right? Depending on perspective, it's all relative.
it's so true. It's so true. What was it that happened 4 years in that drew you to meditation in particular?
Hmm. There's a couple of things. I still had this achievement-based yearning that was driving me. I think that made me pick up I always had a draw to kind of Eastern philosophy and mysticism. So that was already a seed planted, if you will. Um, but then I tried meditation and then made like a commitment. I'm gonna do 1,000 days every day. I'm gonna meditate. So that became just kind of this ritual. And then after a while, I started to let go of the goal and recognizing the kind of the fruits of the practice. And then I also started to travel to India. And I was working with project management, so more in a kind of a corporate role. But just those travels back and forth started to expose me more to to different ways of viewing life day to day, but also more of the Indian or Eastern traditions and practices as well. So that's kind of slowly how everything came together, and all of a sudden, I guess I just experienced that meditation is a natural thing now. But that also probably took 2-3 years.
Yeah, to develop. What was it about because you had mentioned to me the facilitation in particular, you were doing some change management. And in that process, there was a thinning of the veil as you were coming into awareness, I guess, of yourself. And can you describe exactly what was happening there and why you associate that as being a pivotal moment?
Yeah, yeah. So facilitation in the sense of being of a non-attached participant whose primary role is to be aware of space and then all the energy that is moving within it. So all the people, the opinions, the needs, the beliefs, etc. That's also kind of, if we zoom out a little bit, just a natural spiritual practice if we allow it to be, right? So that was basically what I was doing work-wise for a few years. A lot of workshop facilitation and kind of learning facilitation. And working with so many different people from different cultures, working in this kind of global corporate setting, which is a blessing in and of itself. Um, but recognizing how well, we naturally kind of at the surface level missed one another, or it could be two organizations or two teams or two cultures that seem to have a common goal, but it was just very hard to reach that, right? But being allowed to be in the role of not attaching to that goal and just like, from heart caring about the people, your colleagues and friends, and just how can we bring each other together to in a sense emerge. So I think that I connected that to music as well. Like here's one note or one group of people. Here's another note. If we don't play, it's no like no life, no fun, right? But if we have just this agreement to come together for whatever purpose, but we agree to come together for a shared purpose, right? That allows two like seemingly separate entities, people, notes to come together and emerge into something new. And all of a sudden we have a song, or we have, you know, it could be a new product or a strategy or whatever the output is in the corporate setting. But the same foundational aspects of space and energy and then relatedness or being, becoming, belonging, working together.
Yeah. I'm curious, were you explicitly speaking in this way to your clients, or was this just an inner happening and a way of being that you were showing up as and sort of playing the orchestrator of the music?
I think this is evolved, and I had I was still in my own bubble, if you will, my spiritual journey, so to say. And I would say my language was more connecting to the corporate language and maybe bringing in team metaphors or sports and stuff like that. A lot of music too, actually. It was probably the last 2 years before I decided to quit my then job that the kind of I started to feel a yearning to bring what I was experiencing through a little bit more. Um, so I think the language evolved, and also I couldn't help but kind of invite, hey, do you want to meditate with me? Let's take 15 minutes before, and opening sessions with maybe we just be quiet for a, a little bit.
Yeah.
So like very gradually, but it was also challenging because I did feel, yeah, like two different people in a sense, and also very much holding back this new aspect of me that was wanting to come out. And I also had more of a kind of belief that it's not really okay to talk about this or to be this in a corporate setting. So I had some part of that in my belief structure, which yeah, maybe took another 2 years to to allow that. So like it hasn't been a day,
No,
hey, for me,
no.
very slowly, gradually.
You may have had resistance, but it sounds like you were still making efforts to integrate as much as you could and find pockets and moments and opportunities and make invitations. Where were you geographically in this moment? Where were you running these?
Based in Sweden and then
Based.
traveling so to India, Italy, UK, Germany, but
Okay.
Sweden was still based where I'm born and raised.
Okay. Were there any difference culturally in terms of who you noticed were more responsive to some of these invitations versus in terms of culture versus others?
Uh, yeah, yes, and in different ways, I guess. But I experienced that when we came into this kind of shared belief system of we are here more as our title than as beings, then everyone more or less played the same game. Then when we stepped out and, had dinners afterwards or kind of spent time outside that container, I would definitely, um, yeah, the clearest contrast, I guess, to me was that of West and East. Very, very like oversimplified, of course. But the meetings I had, just a few conversations with my colleagues in India who made a comment like, "You guys over there are so stressed. Like it's just this lifetime. What's the rush?" Like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. I've never seen it like that. I've always seen it as, I gotta make it, you know, achieve, and then I retire when I'm 65-ish. Like that has always been this underlying assumed reality. So just having conversations with some more like with yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're playing an infinite game over there. This is just one
Yeah.
life of many. So, like, why you overly stressed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, many
Right.
more opportunities to get it right.
What's the rush? Yeah.
The rush. What's the rush? You alluded to a pivotal moment in meditation where the old structure, you got to confront some of those old structures, belief systems. Bring us into that moment and what that sort of crumbling away and unfolding, what took place and what your relationship to it was.
Yeah. So by then I had meditated for a couple of years, but mostly by myself, exploring some courses and books and a few retreats, but I'd never committed to sitting for more than maybe 6 hours straight. And now this was a Vipassana retreat in the Goenka lineage, if anyone is familiar with that, which is basically 10 days with more or less silence all the time. And you commit not to communicate, meaning no eye contact. You commit to be with yourself and also to commit to truth. And as we begin speaking, that is, naturally challenging to be completely truthful with language. So we vow to be quiet. Um, and after a few days of that, and it's a beautiful kind of unfolding that happens as the active kind of day-to-day mind that is more busy following thoughts, as that begins to settle, and the thoughts are more allowed to kind of arise and flow, then naturally we begin to experience what is happening on the inside. Uh, so coming into subtle sensations or begin to notice these underlying movements. Again, back to what I felt in music in flow states, but here being able to actually relate to it and refine that connection. But what also happens, as we know in deep coaching, when we bring awareness to something, then we also give space to it, and we allow something that has been frozen or stuck, whatever we whatever words we want to use for it, we allow that to begin to move and unravel. So I had one specific point in my solar plexus, just in between the middle part of my lower rib cage, that I'd always recognized was very tense, and I could feel, yeah, let's call it anxiety coming and going. But now all of a sudden, when I came closer to this in this kind of present state, that really began to make itself heard, and then eventually becoming so powerful that I was fully convinced that it was going to implode within. And it stayed for a day and a half or so. And eventually, and the whole practice is to let go of any story, right? But of course, I went through all the stories. So where's this coming from? Oh, is this connected to something my childhood? Do I need to call a doctor? All of these. But just releasing, emptying,
Yeah.
and then bringing love and awareness. And then eventually, in the moment when I was convinced that I'm dying now, there was also uh, a deeper place in me that trusted the flow. So instead of imploding, it just dissipated or dissolved, or yeah, like butterflies, I guess.
Wow.
So that was my first. This is the first time I witnessed, like, fully. There was no getting away of the magic that was there. Um, and that's, I guess, when I started to believe in transformation, or what I had experienced earlier when I was 17, 18. But that was the first, like, moment of permission, in a
Yeah.
sense.
Wow.
And one metaphor that came and just connected in that moment was, all right, if I have an accident, or anyone, let's say I have a knife cut in my hand, so there's an open wound now, and I just clean it out, and then I do nothing, then it heals by its own volition. Right? It's the most natural thing. But we cannot take that for granted. Okay, but it means that we all know through direct experience that there is this healing experience of life that just wants to move through and bring together into wholeness. Okay, so we know that when it comes to kind of our skin, or our yeah, a broken leg maybe. But when it comes to our inner reality, emotions, sensations, imprints, samskaras, personal gravity, again, whatever language we use, it's the same. Like, yeah, it's the same self volition that just wants to heal
Yeah.
if we allow it to.
Yeah. And the challenge there is getting through the amygdala, right? The part of our mind that is trying to protect that core wound, because for that part of our mind, typically these core wounds happen early on in life. And that is the self preservation. It is survival. It is, if I don't protect this, if I don't keep it safe by my energetic contractions
Yeah,
and stories that I create around it, then I might die. Then I
yeah,
might not be okay. And so that we have to, and that's what's beautiful about these moments of awakening, is that we end up in environments that either, whether through our own desire or not, bypass all of that and allow us to access those core wounds again, but now through a spacious presence,
yeah,
allowing presence.
yeah, yeah. And that's such a beautiful thing with coming together as partners in a deep coaching setting, or elsewhere.
Mm,
But in a sense, providing that anchor and that grounded presence that
yeah.
can allow ourselves to connect when it's seemingly impossible to connect ourselves, because we get pulled in again. We begin resisting, or rejecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, if I were to hear SN Goenka's voice, I immediately go back to just like that meditation. It just immediately calibrates me back to sitting in those cushions. His voice is so deeply ingrained in my being.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
sitting there hours on end with that chant, especially in the beginning and at the end of the meditations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's powerful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had then a further, you can say, dark night of the soul of sorts, or just like a moment a couple years after, where just everything, or maybe yeah, just a couple years after that, where things just felt like you were falling apart. I think you mentioned rock bottom.
Yeah.
What was it about? What happened, and what was it about what happened that felt like a rock bottom for you?
Well, after that Vipassana moment, life kind of continued on as it seems to do, but with this little kind of golden nugget of insight and of deep and trust in life and the mystery and the magic. But after a few months, I did also feel that the rest of the day-to-day pace kind of found its way in, and also, um, yeah, maybe we could say that the part of me that was still acting from a limiting belief was creating more of that kind of achievement-based drive, and also, uh, well, in a sense, achieving, but more pressure. So I had one path in life that was just driving more, traveling more intense workshops, higher stakes, all of that. But I also had this other path that was opening to like more meditation, and kind of exploring different traditions. And practically, I have found myself in a yoga teacher training in Stockholm. So I was doing the weekends in Stockholm, and then the weekdays I was traveling. And there was a beautiful contrast of like high pace, efficiency, strategy, all of that. And then coming here and it's like just being and life. And so going back and forth kind of gradually started to make me feel like I was pulled in two different directions. And yeah, that kind of dark night of the soul was in a bathtub in UK, probably like we'd done workshops for a couple of days, and that last night just feeling completely exhausted. So I lay down, take a bath, and in a moment I just felt like I don't know what's upside down. I have one part of me that says nothing matters, all is well. It's just presence. And then I have this other burning part of me that's just running for something, or maybe running from something, or both. And I couldn't bear it anymore. That dilemma. So that again felt akin to the experience in Vipassana, but this time was more around the heart. Uh, so another moment of I can't take this. I can't do this anymore. And so the decision came to like, okay, so then I don't. Then I let go. And similarly, a shift from kind of complete feeling like just a stone sinking deeper and deeper in that bathtub to beginning to kind of uh, find lightness again. And it took a couple of weeks, and then yeah, I had one beautiful conversation with my friend Henrik, who's and has a transformational coaching background, and he just mirrored me very simply. And I was probably complaining about if I wasn't working, and he said, I hear you talking about what you don't want. So what does your heart want? It's that simple thing, and that allowed me to kind of for the first time maybe connect fully to, well, what wants to happen from here without any
Right.
ifs and buts, oughts, shoulds. And in that moment, I guess I made a decision to I'm just going to follow heart, whatever that means, whether it makes sense or not. I'm just going to follow heart and trust this journey. And then, yeah, quit my job. I gently ended a relationship I was in for about 7 years, and began traveling. So that kind of marked a symbolic shift away from that previous chapter also.
A significant shift. Yeah, it's fascinating how each human being has a different level of just willingness to bear discomfort or a certain thing, because that rock bottom could be anybody else's. Just, hey, I'm off, but I still need to work. I still need to make a living.
Yeah,
So I'll grind it out. I'll figure it out. I'll just keep going. And it takes many more activating events and many more things in one's life to reach what's considered rock bottom. So each of our rock bottoms are quite different.
yeah,
There was something in your spirit and your being that was just ready to be unshackled, to be free. And hence that situation just became unbearable, like you said. And you're
yeah.
like, I gotta go my own way.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful reminder how we're all on our unique journey, and
Yeah.
like we can either play on the level of competing with one another, or coming into a sense of collaboration, and just allowing whatever you experience to be the most joyful, inspiring thing, but also the most challenging thing. That's uniquely yours. And if I try to see you through my worldview, I will, I'm just repeating my my past in a sense. So
Yeah.
really allowing that, yeah, what seems super heavy to you might seem light to me, and vice versa.
And vice
Really
versa.
having kind of both the understanding, the empathy, and also respect for that.
Yeah, and respect for the divine curriculum that we each have that is very unique to each one of us.
Yeah.
We have to go through a set of experiences for whatever reason, in whatever way, to lead us exactly where we need to be for life, for others, for our destiny, whatever, however way you want to look at it. But you're precisely here because of the divine curriculum that you've had and that you've allowed to unfold for you in your life. And
Yeah.
that's incredible when we sit back to the mystery and magic of that journey, you know?
Yeah. And that's such a beautiful thing that comes with the Transformational Coaching Collective and the Deep Coaching Intensive, inviting the togetherness to begin sharing that journey, and to allow our kind of, when I'm in my low and maybe I'm doubting everything. And yesterday I sounded so wise, but now we can talk, and you're in a place of just deep trust right now, but not trust that is pointing me in any direction, but just the essence of your trust is allowing me to co-regulate, co-vibrate with that. And it's such a beautiful, yeah, experience to be allowed to do that together. And I know, because I did it for a couple of years. In my experience, I had many beautiful friends, but this part of me
Mm,
was kind of shut down or sheltered in a sense. So now coming into this, we're all on the same path, walking each other home.
it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
So you did a lot of travel through work, and now you were doing travel, but now in a different way. You were sort of free to be in the world and to follow your spirit, follow your heart. What was your relationship now to the movements that you were making and the decisions that you were making from that moment?
Every now and then, a moment of, was that the right thing to do, or regret, or comes up. and and I also know by now that, well, that's the invitation, that's the food to digest and kind of move from perceived suffering to grace. And the way I see it is, that's the fun part. Again, coming back to art and music, if there is no tension, there's no intention and release, there is no life, right? So I there's both a gratitude for having experienced all of the challenges, the mistakes, the burdens, that, and I say it with lightness now, but in the moment it is as heavy as it gets when it is, right?
Yeah.
But it's also what allows us to deeply empathize with others, and also to experience the light on the other side, like really yearning for something. And then we recognize, we come to a place where, there's no yearning at all needed. It was already here. But yeah, it allowed us to have, and then it allows us to have the human experience, and then to share it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. And I don't have any answers for why, or how it all happened this way. And that's something I'm committed to coming back to, releasing as soon as I begin to feel like I understand. I got it now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
coming back to the mystery and magic of it, and just really allowing yourselves to keep being surprised.
Hmm. And really, that decision led you to everything that you're experiencing in life right now with your partner. You eventually found the DCI, your daughter. Everything led as a result of that decision that you made came from that. It's
Yeah.
incredible, right? We can't possibly design these things. Life has so much more in store for us than we can possibly imagine. Incredible.
Yeah.
Tell me what
Yeah.
it was like meeting Samantha and beginning that partnership.
That was something else, my friend. I thought it was getting a little wise, a little smart ass maybe. And then we met, and I just, wow, I know nothing. Um, no, but it really felt like it's good to see you again. A recognition of a familiar being, a familiar soul. And we met in this kind of beautiful, but also wonky container. Again, a yoga teacher training. This is a 30-day kind of intensive with 30 other people. And of course, everyone's coming there with kind of open heart, but also there's a lot of energy moving. So after those 30 days together, we already knew each other quite well, and then kept on kept on traveling together, and made a decision like after 6 weeks that, oh yeah, we are together now. That's what it is. Um, yeah, and following that also, what has been such a beautiful, yeah, another level of development for me is committing to an intentional or a conscious relationship, where of course we have all our humanness, and she's a woman and I am a man, and all of the practical aspects, but we also commit to allowing every moment, including every shadow, every argument, to be an invitation for us individually to let go of our past so that we can come into one. And that's both a fierce journey because there's nothing left on the table. Like there's no hiding anymore. Like all the shadowy parts, here you are. But it's also yeah, something I started to feel right away, that she loves the parts of me that I couldn't love myself. And just recognizing that it doesn't matter what I do, or you know what I have done or haven't done, she still loves me underneath the actions, and likewise. And that just allows for this shoo, 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 you know, lighter, 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 uh, and sometimes challenging. We had a couple of months where we committed to, let's cocoon, isolate, and do shadow work. Nothing else. That's what we do. And that was intense.
Tell me
But
more.
also
I need to know more.
that's probably easier before having a child, I guess. Yeah, this is about 2.5 years ago. Just when we moved to Charleston here in South Carolina, and maybe recognized that where we met in life, that we were kind of moving from feeling entangled into freedom.
Mm,
And after kind of just being on the road together for more or less a year, still feeling that like we can go wherever life takes us, and then feeling this call to settle in or settle down, and decided to move here to Charleston. Then it was like the day-to-day entanglement of our past just came from nowhere again. Um, and we lived with that for a couple of weeks and just started to recognize like, oh, that's the self-sabotaging pattern I thought I had conquered. Here's that bad habit again. And yeah, just committing to like, let's do this for real. Let's bring through everything that wants to be brought through without trying to get anywhere. There's no end destination. There's no yeah, all is welcome, nothing is needed, strong intentions, no expectations, that kind of relationship to it. But practically, um, yeah, reading up on like concrete shadow work and just having a practical aspect of it, um, inviting some plant medicine journeys to have more of those um, transcendental experiences as well. But then just spending a lot of time together, and finding a way to recognize as soon as I'm pointing a finger at you, Samantha, it means that I'm actually projecting something. And if you get triggered by my finger pointing, it means that you're also triggered. So there's no escape. As soon as someone is projecting or assisting or judging, it means that this is a shared drama now. So how can we, find ways to allow that in the thick of it, when it's I just need to say something, or I just need to be heard or seen. You just need to understand my point of view in those moments when we feel the, yeah, all of the kind of heavy energy, to just stop and say no more, but also don't go anywhere, and just hang out in that in between space. And then the first person who feels the release, like, oh, shoulders not away from the ears. I'm actually not busy expressing my needs anymore. Okay, something shifted in me. As soon as that happens in me, it happens in her too. So there's always this recognition of, we might not see it at the kind of human consciousness level, if you will, our day-to-day intellect, but we're so attuned to one another. So you just really begin to dance with that as well. And it's still ongoing. It might be forever, I don't know. But it's a
Might be forever.
beautiful, beautiful process.
That
Well, we always come back as soon as we invite stillness, slowing it down and sit. We could come back to the same realization that we are all connected in heart. And if I feel any kind of judgment towards myself or someone else, that's an invitation to actually release something, right? And compassion is the way. So it's like heart is what's connecting, and heart is somehow the gateway as well. And then also, rather than, from my point of view, seeking like a practice or a specific tradition or a teacher as the kind of one way to serve my own inner journey, allowing every moment to be the invitation instead. And that allowed me to reconcile some of those early dilemmas of, it's either I'm spiritual or I'm kind of practical.
right.
And just allowing every moment to well, in a sense, hey, I allowed life to decide what wants to happen. So welcome. And then my job is, how am I choosing to respond to it? And when I can't do anything else but react, well, then it will come a moment later when I can respond.
Yeah.
I feel like that is what we are practicing to live by. And again, sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't.
Right.
They're gradually a little lighter and a little more
Yeah.
just moving with the flow.
Yeah. Once you're tapped into a certain level of awareness, when core wounds come up, it's really a matter of just getting out of its way, not trying to do anything. You don't even have to try to do anything with it. You don't have to even go too far into it, because like you were saying, the example of cutting your hand and just giving it time, it will heal. So if we're spacious enough inside of ourselves, if we're allowing enough inside of ourselves, then whatever has arisen in that moment through the gift of our presence and love can slowly dissipate and dissolve and reintegrate back into ourselves. So that is the journey. It's just engaging with life, allowing life to then poke those triggers inside of us, allow them to arise, and then let them go.
Yeah. 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 It's a beautiful journey.
Not always easy. Not always easy,
Not always easy.
especially in partnership. And yet
Yeah.
there's something about partnership that it is such an accelerant, because so many of our core wounds happen in relationship to others. And when we're really truly in a spiritual partnership, then we have an opportunity to heal those core wounds. I really don't think that we can heal core wounds that happened in relationship in isolation. It's just we just don't have those opportunities to confront and see where we're still holding and where we're still resisting and where we're still protecting and preserving and all those things. It's only in relationship where those things become apparent, and where we would then, as a result, have the opportunity to go in and further heal, you know?
Yeah. I know for sure it's easier to sit in my room and play guitar than being out engaging with people, in terms of, not being triggered. But as soon as we engage, as soon as we relate, like, it's like this, I see it as a kind of a ping pong. I mean, it's our nervous system, again, the amygdala,
That's it.
depending on perspective. This ping pong of, am I okay? That's one aspect, but there's also a deeper version saying, I want to be seen, I want to connect, right? The light of self wanting to come out.
Yeah.
So just allowing that ping pong to happen.
The whole play, allowing the whole play to take place and not needing to do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, I find that to be quite liberating in and of itself. Yeah. How did you run into the DCI, the Deep Coaching Intensive?
Yeah, those somewhere along the lines before that, what do we call it? The bathtub experience.
Hey,
But
experience.
I was already doing some coaching and started to kind of venture into these more spiritual spaces, and just felt like there ought to be some people who have kind of thought about bringing these together, because there's something about the partnership and the space of coaching that is so beautiful and also so practical and supporting a forward momentum. And I also experienced that the more I learned about coaching, then the more I started to get in my own way.
Mm,
I started to add on more powerful questions and more techniques, and needed to understand more about everything instead of trusting my presence and intuition.
yeah.
And this others in this other space, it was the complete opposite. Just kind of facilitating a yoga class without any preparations and just trusting the flow, and it was beautiful. So it was kind of along that exploration, but also frustration, that I started to do some search, and Leon's book appeared from nowhere, and just opening that, I felt a direct resonance with, both the way he speaks about the transformational journey, and then allows it to be both um, a way of service, of holding space for others, but primarily is through our own inner journey. And that really resonated. It's like, oh, it's about how do I allow myself to become an environment for transformation by allowing my own transformation to unfold, rather than how do I learn more techniques, right? And then the techniques and the processes, they come too, but it's within that wider field. So yeah, I read the book and then gut feeling signed up for the DCI right away.
Yeah. And what insights did you get, and in what ways did it deepen your journey being a part of the DCI?
Yeah, I guess on all levels, just allowing a gradual trust in myself, in life, in transformation, bringing together again the sense of community. There's something about, or has been on my journey at least, this thing about permission, allowing myself to believe in what I experience, and coming together, and practicing working with others, being vulnerable with others. So we're still doing it for that, shared intention again. I think that has been such a
Mm,
key part. And then also just getting a deeper understanding, like a cognitive understanding for this mysterious, beautiful, natural process that is inner transformation,
yeah.
and kind of bridging, as I jumped to the east in a sense, into uh, Vedanta and yoga and Buddhism, and then kind of try to bring it together with some modern science and psychology, but to have something that allowed everything to
Mm,
uh, be included and explained in a rather simplistic way. That really helped me to kind of exhale and just allow the need to sense make much more. Just okay, I see this now, and I trust in it, and that I think has allowed a gradual uh, kind of allowing the transformative process to unfold, rather
mm,
than trying to understand it.
yeah. Yeah. As you're speaking and understanding the journey that you've been on, it seems like the spaces you facilitate fall under one of three categories. And obviously they merge and they're all one in essence, but you can kind of, if we're being precise in distinguishing,
Yeah.
there's presence, there's movement, and there's breath. Is that a
Mm.
fair sort of assessment of your work?
I would say presence and movement, and the third part would be belonging or relating, connection.
Yeah.
And breath is kind of one way of uniting all of them.
One way to make all of that. Yeah, yeah, that's a great way to it's like the core element within it all, in a regard, but I guess presence is too. But what was it
Yeah.
about breath in particular that brought you in and that you felt so passionate about in a sense and then excited to go deeper into?
Yeah. That's similar to the experience with music. That was also just an element that is reflected everywhere. And it began with me wanting to, be able to sing a little better and maybe be able
Mhm.
to perform a little better physically. Like, oh, learning about breath. And then through those India travels, I got exposed to pranayama or breath partnership or breath control, and started to have daily practice. And well, recognizing that the level of my mind and the level of experience, my state of being is directly connected to breath, and directly connected to posture, and directly connected to emotion. So, okay, that means that there's this kind of link or a gateway, right? So just recognizing that was one thing, but then also recognizing that it's also a gauge of where I am or we are. If breath is relaxed and is allowed to move freely with whatever's is happening, then we are also relaxed and able to move with the moment. But as soon as I get angry, then there's start to fill up. There's kind of a resistance to exhaling and just more inhale. And if there's, yeah, let's say, the moment of detaching, of spiritually bypassing, that's almost like vacuuming up a sock, like,
Yeah.
and then we freeze, right? So that's the freeze response. Yeah, so just a bunch of those kind of recognitions of breath. And then again, just like with music, recognizing that there's this inner vertical journey, the experience of breathing physically or breathing air, but then coming into the subtle dimensions and breathing energy, where we kind of move into the experience of less and less effort, less and less trying, but more um, vast, more subtle experience, which seems so counterintuitive for the intellects. That seems impossible. Um, yeah, and then there's a lot of healing aspects too. That's just beautiful. Just yeah,
Yeah.
and we can open more buckets, but
There's
it's
so
like
many
it's no
buckets.
end to it. Yeah,
There's no end to it. The main thing that I think is important is that the mind has become so it's a tool that we have as human beings that have helped us to evolve and to survive. Right? So we have this. It's perfectly created for our survival in a sense. And so like we were saying, some of these aspects that we've wounds that we've had, traumas that we've had, it our body has contorted in a certain way. Our breath has evolved in a certain way to keep those at bay so that we don't have to confront and feel those things. And so you can see it in someone's posture. They can experience it in their breath. And so what makes movement, what makes the breath, what makes some of these practices so powerful is that it bypasses the conscious mind and allows you to access those patterns and those grooves and those places where there's still stuck energy. That's that mechanism to preserve and stay safe, and it just floods it with
yeah,
attention and awareness and breath. And there's an opportunity there for release, an opportunity, not always. And sometimes when we get there, for some people, they are like, no, I can't, and like a further contraction. But
yeah,
for others, if you're open enough and ready enough, it's just incredible. Some of these breathwork sessions are just so cathartic. The
yeah,
releases that happen are incredible as a result of being able to access those places that we otherwise wouldn't know how to access consciously.
yeah, yeah. Without coming through breath, it seems easy to perpetuate resisting whatever is there without even recognizing it. We don't feel that emotional landscape when we are actively here. We live
Yeah.
in that projected reality. But then we're just one breath away from actually opening inside instead
Yeah.
of being one thought away from the moment all the time. And that's, I mean, isn't that fascinating too? It's always right there.
Always, always. Yeah, we're
Or
always
right
one.
here.
We are. We're always one breath and one thought away from
Yeah.
that which we're always seeking, which is just freedom.
Yeah.
On some level, freedom, peace, joy, connection, oneness, all those things.
Yeah.
As we start to wrap up our conversation here, for listeners that are on their own journey, what is one invitation, one thing that you can leave listeners with, something that they can practice on their own transformational journeys?
Sit. I think it's what's coming up. And we, I mean, depending on level of consciousness, we can recognize that this is happening for us and as us. But as long as we live in a fast pace, the experience it's happening either by us or to us. So just slowing down enough to allow ourselves to simply open the inside instead of going outside, instead of following thoughts or reactions to what is happening. And may that be for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just exploring that
Yeah.
is, well, I still do it when I forget to slow down, just sit. And then I remember, oh, that's how simple it is.
Right.
But yeah, I guess there's an irony in that because since it's so simple, the way life works through polarity, it's also the most difficult thing, right? And also the thing we would doubt, like just sitting, could that be enough? But there are no external answers to inner questions.
So beautifully said. Is there anything that you haven't shared that you'd love to share with anybody listening? Something that would be worth bringing up here?
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be part of the center and to share this journey with everyone in the community. So if you are part of the community, just sending you a big hug. And if you're outside the community, currently, I'm sending you a big hug and welcome you in to join us in some way. And yeah, just extending gratitude. Thank you. And thank you to you, Jonathan. It's a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I just want to share how grateful I am to have you in my life, to have you as a part of the center. Like I said at the beginning, you are a light, and your presence, your love, who you are, just emanates and touches everyone that you come into contact with. And so it's such a gift to have sat here with you and to have your story shared with others so that they get to know who you are and get to feel your light as well. And thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, hermano.
Thank you so much for being with us today. To learn more about today's guest, visit our podcast landing page at www.podcast.centerfortransformationalcoaching.com. You'll find links to their website, social media, and anything else they might want to share there. And if you're curious to explore more about our work, our trainings, or the deep coaching approach, you'll find everything at www.centerfortransformationalcoaching.com. A new episode of this podcast releases every 2 weeks, so please subscribe wherever you listen to stay up to date. Until next time, stay present, embrace love, and continue sensing into what life is calling you toward. See you soon.